Why does my own daughter look at me like I'm a stranger, when all I want is to remember how it felt to love her? Emily didn't scream those words. She whispered them to no one in particular late one night, while sitting alone in her dimly lit apartment, hands trembling over a photo she didn't recall taking. Her face was in it. So was a man with tired eyes and a gentle smile, and a baby cradled between them. But the faces meant nothing to her heart. That's what terrified her most. For weeks she had watched the little girl with the dimpled chin and brave eyes play at the edge of her world, knowing something inside her should ache with recognition. But instead there was only fog and shame. She tried to piece together the shards of a life that others insisted was hers. A life of love, of family, of laughter. But to Emily it all felt like fiction, carved from someone else's dream. Until one day something shifted, something she couldn't explain. A scent, a melody, a pair of familiar eyes filled with tears. And what happened after that, what she chose to do next, changed everything. Stay with us, because what you're about to witness isn't just a story of memory and loss. It's the kind of miracle that begins where most love stories end. Daniel Whitmore hadn't stepped foot in a farmer's market in over a decade. A man like him, multi-millionaire owner of 3 construction companies and resident of a sprawling estate in Carmel by the Sea, didn't exactly go shopping for tomatoes. Not since Emily died. Not since the color drained from his world and he'd started living more like a ghost than a man. But that Saturday morning, his housekeeper had an emergency, and his son Noah had dared him at breakfast. "Dad, you can't even boil water. Why not just order pizza? I'm making pasta," Daniel replied, locking eyes with his 17-year-old. "With real tomatoes, like your mom used to do." Noah nearly choked on his cereal. "You cooking? I need to film this." Daniel ignored the sarcasm. Something about the thought of making Emily's pasta again made him feel awake, human, like maybe he could reconnect with his son through a memory that wasn't just pain. So he got into his sleek black BMW and drove straight to Riverside Farmers Market. He hadn't been in this part of town in years. His tailored shirt and polished shoes stood out like a sore thumb among the cracked pavement, fluttering canvas tents and busy vendors shouting about melons and deals. He wandered aimlessly, the smell of fresh herbs and baked bread hitting him like a time machine. Emily used to drag him here on Sundays. She'd haggle with vendors, touch the fruit like she could read their souls, and always pick the tomatoes with a line he never forgot. "The good ones smell like sunshine and earth." He smiled faintly at the memory. Then he saw her. At first he thought it was a trick of the light. A little girl, maybe 7 years old, was crouched beside a wooden cart, arranging carrots into neat bundles. Her brown hair was tied back in a messy ponytail, and her jeans had holes in both knees. But it wasn't the clothes. It was her face, the angle of her jaw, the slight frown as she focused, the eyes wide bright and filled with a knowing sadness. They were Emily's. Daniel froze. It felt like someone had sucker punched him in the gut. He couldn't breathe, couldn't move. She looked up and smiled. That smile, the very one that had disarmed him 20 years ago. "Look, Dee," he cleared his throat. I need tomatoes. Best in the market." She grinned, gesturing toward a crate. "Want me to pick them for you?" He nodded dumbly. As she carefully selected the reddest, roundest ones, she continued, "My grandma says tomatoes are like people. You gotta feel the weight and check the skin, but what matters is inside. Your grandma sounds very wise. She is, but she's sick, so I help her now." Daniel felt a knot twist in his stomach. "And your mom?" The girl paused. Her expression darkened slightly, but she didn't shy away. "She died when I was a baby. I don't remember her." "What's your name?" he asked softly. "Lily Carter." His blood ran cold. Carter. That was Emily's maiden name. His hand trembled as he took a tomato from the crate. Lily reached out instinctively and steadied his grip, her small fingers wrapping around his. In that moment, Daniel felt something he hadn't felt in 5 long, silent years: warmth, the kind only one woman had ever made him feel. And now, this tiny girl with her same hands, same calm, same everything. "You okay?" Lily asked. Daniel blinked. "Yes, just these tomatoes are perfect." "Because you're holding them right," she said proudly. "Grandma taught me." Daniel knelt down beside her. "Would it be all right if I met your grandma?" She's in our truck just behind the tents, Lily said. She needs to rest a lot now. As Daniel followed Lily, something in the pit of his stomach churned not fear, but something else. A terrible suspicion blooming into certainty. The woman sitting in the beat-up pickup behind the stand looked up as they approached. Her face was older, thinner, weathered, but unmistakable. Margaret Carter, her eyes locked with Daniel's. She dropped the water bottle in her hand. "Oh, God," she whispered. Daniel Lily looked between them, confused. "Grandma, you know him," Margaret's lips quivered. "Lily, my sweet girl, there's something you need to know. Something I should have told you a long time ago." Daniel's heart pounded. He wasn't ready for this. Not here. Not in the parking lot of a dusty market with beets on the floor and his chest ready to explode. Margaret reached out and took Lily's hand. This man is your father." Silence. Lily looked at Daniel, eyes wide, blinking as if trying to understand words too big for her small world. Daddy." Daniel dropped to one knee. "I think I am, sweetheart. I didn't know. I didn't know about you." Lily opened her mouth, closed it, then whispered, "But I thought my dad died." Margaret's voice cracked. "I told you that to protect you. I didn't know if he'd ever come back, if he'd ever care to know." Daniel's eyes burned. "I would have. If I'd known, if anyone had told me I was afraid," Margaret said. "Afraid you'd take her away, or hurt her." After Emily, Daniel's voice was barely audible. She's not." Margaret looked away, her silence and answer more terrifying than any scream. Suddenly, behind a row of stalls, a shadow moved. A woman in a baseball cap and sunglasses, standing very still watching the scene unfold. But Daniel didn't see her. He had eyes only for the child in front of him. "Do you want to be my dad now?" Lily asked, her voice trembling. Daniel took her tiny hands in his. "I want to be your father more than anything in this world, if you'll let me." And somewhere in the crowd, a woman in a cap turned and disappeared, tears trailing behind like footprints made of memory. "We're sorry for the pause in the story, but we promise what happens next will change everything." Do you think Daniel deserves a second chance to be a father after all these years? Let us know in the comments. And if this story moved you, please like and share it with someone who believes in second chances. The air in Daniel's chest felt too thick to breathe. He had found her his daughter, a daughter he never knew existed. Lily Carter's tiny hands still trembled in his palms as the truth unraveled like a fragile thread, each tug exposing a deeper wound he hadn't known he carried. But just as his world began to rebuild itself around this new hope, something or someone vanished into the crowd. A figure in a baseball cap, a woman with the same walk, the same height, the same presence. Daniel turned his head sharply, searching the direction where he thought he'd seen her. But she was gone. He brushed it off. Wishful thinking, maybe, or the shadow of grief still dancing in the corners of his eyes. Emily was gone. That's what he'd been told. That's what Margaret had confirmed. And yet something about that glance, it haunted him. That night back in his grand estate, he couldn't sleep. He sat on the edge of his leather couch, staring at the tomato Lily had handed him. He hadn't even made the pasta. He didn't care anymore. His mind was replaying every word, every glance from earlier. He needed answers. The next morning, Daniel returned to Riverside Market. Not for groceries, not even for Lily. He needed to talk to Margaret alone. But when he got to their usual stand, the cart was packed up. The spot was empty. A handwritten note was taped to one of the tent poles, closed until further notice. His chest tightened. Daniel wasn't the kind of man who waited quietly. He called every hospital within 30 miles. Then every flower shop. It wasn't until he dialed a small local studio, Bloomin' Root Floral, that someone recognized the name Emily Carter. "She's one of our freelancers," the soft-voiced woman on the line said. "Works weekends. Doesn't talk much. Sweet but distant." Daniel's heart skipped. "Do you know if she's working today?" A pause. "Actually, yes. She just came in an hour ago." He was already grabbing his keys before the call ended. Bloomin' Root was tucked into a quiet corner of the city, its windows fogged with morning dew and its entrance framed with overgrown ivy. Daniel walked in the bell above the door, chiming softly. And there she was, back turned, sleeves rolled up, arranging roses in a glass vase like it was an art form. Her movements were delicate, familiar, too familiar. He didn't speak at first. He couldn't. His breath caught in his throat as he took her in. "Emily." She turned around and froze. Daniel didn't expect her to smile, but he didn't expect her eyes to go wide with fear either. "Don't come closer," she said instinctively, stepping back. "Who are you?" "It's me," he said gently. "Daniel." She blinked rapidly. Her lips parted slightly, as if trying to summon a memory that wouldn't come. "I don't," she began, but her voice broke. "I don't know you." Daniel's heart crumbled. "Emily, it's been years, since the accident. Margaret said you were gone. She told me I was in the hospital for 6 months," she said, her voice low and bitter. "When I woke up, they said I had a baby girl. But no husband. No one came." "I never knew," Daniel said, his voice trembling. "No one told me you survived. They buried an empty coffin. I buried a ghost." Emily turned her face away. "I don't remember any of it. Not you, not the wedding, not even Lily's first steps. I look at her and I feel something, but I don't know what it is." Daniel stepped closer, slower this time. "She's amazing, Emily. You'd be so proud of her. She's strong, brave, and she sells vegetables with a kind of pride that made me want to be a better man." Emily swallowed hard. "I'm not ready." "You don't have to be," he whispered. "But I am." Her eyes filled with tears. "Why are you here?" Daniel hesitated, then said what had been clawing at his insides for hours. "Because even if you don't remember me, I remember you. I remember the way you smiled when you found the perfect lily at a flower stall. I remember the way you held my hand when we lost our first baby. I remember the night we made Lily. You cried and said you were scared. I told you we'd figure it out together. And I meant it." Emily's knees gave way slightly, but she grabbed the edge of the table. "Stop! I can't feel all of that. Not when it's not real to me." Daniel nodded slowly. "Then let's make new memories. From this day forward. For you. For Lily." Suddenly, a child's laugh echoed from the back room. "Lily's." Emily's head whipped toward the sound. Her eyes widened. "She's here," she whispered. Daniel smiled. "She begged to come. Said she wanted to see the lady with the magic hands again." Emily turned slowly toward the door, heart-hammering breath shallow. "I'm scared," she whispered. "I know," Daniel said softly. "But you're not alone anymore." And as the door creaked open and Lily stepped into the room, flowers in hand, and hope in her eyes, something shifted. Emily stared at her at the same dimpled chin, the same shy glance, and for a split second something flickered. Not a memory, but a feeling, a seed, and maybe, just maybe, it was enough. We're deeply sorry for pausing the story here, but the next part will leave you speechless. Do you think Emily's heart will remember what her mind has forgotten? Let us know your thoughts in the comments, and if this moment touched you, please give this video a like and share it with someone who believes in healing. The days that followed moved like quiet ripples across a still lake, gentle, careful, and filled with unspoken emotions. Emily had allowed Lily to stay a little longer at the flower shop that afternoon, and then again the next day. It began with an hour, then 2. They didn't talk about the past. They just existed near each other. Lily helped trim flower stems, sweeping petals off the floor, while Emily watched her from the workbench, heart softening in slow, cautious beats. Daniel didn't rush her. He sat on the shop's little bench by the window, sipping lukewarm tea Emily never remembered offering him. Each day he came back just to be near them. Sometimes he brought sandwiches, sometimes flowers. Once a small music box that played the lullaby Emily used to hum when she was pregnant. He hadn't known she remembered it. But that day Emily startled when she heard it. Her hands trembled. Her eyes welled with tears. "That melody," she whispered, pressing her hand to her chest. Why do I know this? Daniel didn't speak. He just waited, watching the struggle flicker across her face like a storm passing behind her eyes. Then came the first snowfall. Riverside was quiet that evening. Snowflakes danced under the amber glow of the streetlights. Emily closed the shop early. Lily had begged them to walk home instead of taking the bus. She wanted to catch snow on her tongue like the girls in Christmas movies. Daniel walked beside them, the three of them, stepping carefully down the narrow street. "Can we get hot cocoa?" Lily asked, eyes sparkling. "Of course," Emily said, surprising even herself. "But only if your dad helps carry the flowers tomorrow morning." Daniel raised a brow. "My back's not what it used to be." Emily smiled, and in that moment, something unlocked between them. It wasn't about remembering. It was about choosing. They stepped into a little cafe, wooden beams fogged windows, warm cinnamon in the air. A waitress with red curls smiled and led them to a booth. Lily giggled at the whipped cream on her cocoa. Daniel sipped his, slowly soaking in every second. Then Emily placed her hand over his. It was the first time she'd touched him deliberately. "I may never remember who we were," she said quietly, "but I know who I want to be now." Daniel looked at her, heart pounding. "And who is that?" She took a breath. A woman brave enough to give herself a second chance, with the man who never gave up on her. Tears brimmed in his eyes. "And with our daughter," she added, glancing toward Lily, who was now drawing hearts in whipped cream. Daniel's voice broke. "You don't know how long I've prayed for this moment." Emily reached into her bag and pulled out a photograph. A crumpled, faded image that Margaret must have given her, a picture of them at their wedding, sunlit and laughing eyes, locked like two souls who already knew what forever meant. "I've been sleeping with this under my pillow for weeks," she said, "hoping that maybe someday I'd feel what that woman in the photo was feeling." She leaned forward. "Today I did." Daniel closed his eyes, overwhelmed by the weight of it all, the ache, the grace, the miracle of being allowed to love her again. The door jingled as another customer entered. The snow kept falling outside. The world kept moving. But for Daniel, Emily, and Lily, time paused. Just for a moment. Just long enough to choose healing over pain. Hope over memory. That night, as they stood in front of Emily's apartment, she looked at him and said, "Stay. Help me carry this life forward." And for the first time in years, Daniel said yes, not to the past, but to the future. They didn't need to remember everything. They just needed to be here together. Because sometimes love doesn't return the same way it left. Sometimes it finds a new door, knocks softly, and waits to be let in. Would you forgive someone who unknowingly left your life, but came back with an open heart? Do you believe love can be rewritten even after memory fades? What did you think of this story? If it touched something in your heart, please comment number 3 below. If not quite, comment no bar 1. Or no point 2 if it felt just okay. And tell us, which country are you watching from? We'd love to hear from you. If this story warmed your heart, don't forget to like and share it with someone who believes in second chances.